Welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for being here. I'm Vonnie from Vomboo and this time I'm going to completely makeover with my friend Ari this little cabinet using some MintBy Michelle decoupage paper and mint mineral paint. After a really good clean, I'm applying Mint's Mint Grip primer all over the piece. Now you don't necessarily have to prime under the papers, but I'm using this as a light color for underneath my paper. This is the paper I'm going to be using. It's MintBy Michelle's Grey Birds. It really is beautiful and I hope I do it justice on this piece. It's really important to find a good placement for the paper before you start pasting. I'm going to be blending and extending the sides with paint, so I am tearing those edges on the sides so they will blend easier. Okay, so we've got the placement right and now we're going to start pasting. I'm holding it down with one hand so it doesn't move as I put a little bit of top coat. I like to use polyurethane top coat. And I'm just using a small brush to apply a little bit on to secure it in place. If you haven't seen any of my videos before, I've been using this little tool for a while now. It's called a felt applicator, or some people call it a vinyl squeegee. It really helps to push out the creases and the wrinkles and the air bubbles. And in combination with the plastic wrap that I'm using, this is actually the bag that the paper came out of. It really helps to protect the paper as you push out all those creases and make a lovely flat surface. But we don't have a completely flat surface here. The drawer has a bit of a lip, so to maneuver around this bit of detail, I'm misting the paper with water, which relaxes the fibers in the paper and allows it a bit of stretch. So as I'm using my tool and the plastic wrap with my fingers as well, misting the paper allows it to just give and stretch around those uneven surfaces. You do need to do this quite slowly. I mean, the more you take your time with this, the better. In regards to the decoupaging, this is probably the most difficult part of this project, is getting the paper to stretch and go over these detailed bits of the drawers without creating too many creases. I mean, there is an acceptable amount of creases. We honestly cannot expect 100% crease free every time. And even if there's tears, don't worry about the tears because we can fix the tears with paint later. At this stage, it's like, yes, we've got over that drawer and it's looking pretty good so far. So the next obstacle we'll have is the hinges. So what I'm going to do is when I get up to where the hinges are, I'm going to stop before I spray and before I moisten the paper. I'm going to trim around the hinge. Because I'm not going to decoupage over the hinge, I'm going to trim around the hinge while the paper is dry. With this paper, I don't ever do any pre-cutting because the paper stretches as you push it down. So even if I'd pre-cut these hinges, they might have ended up like a couple of centimeters below where they were supposed to have been. So it's better to cut them out as you go. Here I'm making sure it's lovely and flat over her face because that is the highlight of this paper, her beautiful face. And note that when I initially positioned the paper, I made sure that the door seam wasn't going to go right through her face. These are things that you need to think about. Like, you don't want door seams going through faces. You don't want doorknobs to be on the end of someone's nose. You need to make sure that the position of the paper is spot on before you start pasting. Another thing to consider when you are going to wrap an image around the sides like I'm going to do is you will have these flappy bits at the sides at the moment that will tighten and dry and try and distort what you've already put on. So just keep them misted. I keep them misted, which relaxes the paper. Now I'm just trimming the excess off the bottom so I can wrap it around the sides. And as we're going around the sides, I have to apologise because I did record this accidentally in time lapse, so it's a bit disjointed. But what I'm doing is I'm misting the paper so it will relax and go around the corner very easily. I put some paste down and I start in the middle with my tools, just pushing it around the corner, making sure I don't get any trapped air bubbles on that corner, and making sure that the torn edge is all pasted down. And here I am doing the other side. The paper's all on now and I am super happy. I think this whole process took about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. So I'm just waiting for it to dry now, and we will trim through the doors and around the drawers. So she's all dry now, and I'm using a really sharp blade to trim, or slice rather, through where the doors are and around the drawers. Then I go around all the edges and make sure they are pasted down properly, and I'll give them a bit of a sand, get rid of the excess paper and make them flush. The next step is to seal, and I always seal before I do any painting, and this is the product that I like to use. Okay, now we're ready for the paint blending. And this is the part of the project I find the most difficult to commentate because it can take quite a while for me to do this, and it doesn't always work out the first time. But the first thing I always do is I try to match the paper with some textured paint. See how I'm stippling it on, just to try and cover that torn edge that I've got. This is the first time I've used this paper, so it is just like go with the flows, and probably happy to say that because I'm showing this to you, it worked out pretty well. Anyhow, this first color that I'm using from memory is a lot of woolen jumper and a little bit of riverbank green. At first I thought I would need the Sound of Rain, which is the light grey, but the background is actually has a little bit of a green tone to it. So the woolen jumper does not need a lot of green, but it just enough to match that background color, which I'm going to use as my main base color. I should be showing you, but I didn't, sorry. But I've just got a mix mat in front of me and I'm just mixing the colors as I go. The paper's top edge has some dark shading, so I'm coming in now with grey lead, which is a really dark grey, to try and mimic the shading on the paper. Just remember, this is the first layer. And I often put some paint on and stipple it in like this, and then it's like too dark, so I'll use my cloth and I'll try and wipe some of it off. And that is one of the reasons why I seal before I paint, because I can easily remove the paint that I've put on the paper if it's not right. But do notice that I am actually painting right into the paper. I'm not just painting along the paper's edge. Now that I'm happy with the color match, I'm coming in with a larger brush and I'm just going to stipple it on all over. I like the stippled effect. It adds a bit of texture. I feel that a textured surface is a little bit more forgiving and a little easier to blend. Here I'm trying a bit of riverbank green in there, but I wasn't completely happy with it, so I do end up going over it. So now I'm coming in with the Sound of Rain, which is the light grey, just to give a little bit of dimension so it's not just such a flat colour. Like I said, I haven't done this paper before, so I am making it up as I go along, obviously. So I'm just adding now some Sound of Rain and I'm blending that into that base color that I mixed, and I'm adding some dark shading down the bottom, which I'm sort of hoping to create something that is a suggestion of a dark shaded garden or background garden. And also adding some grey lead, and then I'll also be adding some Time and Space black. Oh my god, it's so hard to describe to you this process that I'm doing that I'd never done before, and I'm making it up as I go along. But believe me, it all works out in the end. So with the colors that I've chosen and blending into the paper, creating the suggestion of a shaded garden. And now I'm using the same shades to just create a bit of an ombre, darkened, dimensional effect up the top. Once I'm happy with the background, I'm going to seal it with the spray varnish, set it all in place, ready for the fine brush painting. And while that's drying, I'm going to use Time and Space Black to paint the base, and I give it a couple of coats. You can't see very well, but I am using a lead pencil to plot in where the tip of the wing should be. And I'm just following the design of the original image. And with a very fine brush, with watered down Time and Space, I'm just going over the outlines. So if you're wondering why I sealed with the spray varnish before I did this part of the project, it's because if I made any mistakes, I could literally just wipe it off, because I'm not really that confident with the hand painting, even though it worked out quite well. Just knowing that if I was to make any errors, I could just wipe it off and start again. And believe me, I did do a few times. So now I've come in with a mix of the grey lead dark grey with woolen jumper, which is the creamy colour, and just a tad of impressionist blue. I hadn't mentioned it before, but it's just a really, really pale blue, and that's what this image needed. It just needed that grey to be a little bit bluer. Now I'm coming in with a small fine brush using the Time and Space Black, watered down like it's a watercolour, and I'm just smudging it in to just give back the wing some detail, bit of shadowing. Using my fingers a lot to do the smudging, but that's okay. And now I'm just extending the image on the other side, pretty much the same as I did For the wing on the other bird, I think I might have used a little bit more blue on this side. And I did have to go over it a couple of times to build up the colours so you didn't see the edge of the paper. So I'm just continuing now with my small fine brush, extending the floral images that are in the paper. I'm pretty much mimicking what is in the paper, and what is helpful is to use your lead pencil to roughly sketch a design, and remember, if you don't like it, you can wipe it off because you've already sealed it underneath. See here, I'm putting some lines in with the lead pencil before I paint them with the paint. Okay, so the very last thing to do is to smarten up these original handles that go on the drawer. They have a really lovely shape, but they were just a bit dull. So after a good clean, I've just given them a simple brush with some gold gilding wax, and wow, they have come up a treat. Here she is. Oh my God, she has come up so beautifully. She is just the most adorable image, and I have to say, I love what I've done. I really think I've given her justice. I'm really pleased with my blending. I'm really pleased with my hand painting. The shading is just really fabulous, and yeah, what can I say? I'm really super happy. I hope you've enjoyed this makeover, and maybe I've inspired you to have a go with MintBy Michelle decoupage papers and do that bit of blending and extending on the sides. If you'd like to see more of my work, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much for watching.